Hello on my channel, it's Grax here, and in today's tutorial video I will show you how to build a nice 5-inch freestyle drone, which will be pretty quick, so it will take 6 hours voltage and also will be really durable. So the first part that we will start off is the frame of our drone, which will be the copy of the Apex 5 frame from Ready to Sky. So this is really inexpensive frame and it's nearly as the same durable as the original one. The next part that we'll be using on this build is this PDB F405 flight controller with the 50 amp AST. So this is one of the best deals that you can get from AliExpress. So this tag is really inexpensive and have a lot of features. The next part that we'll be using is this 600 milliwatt VTX, and this is one from the most cheap VTXs that you can buy from the internet. So this is from Hanku, and when you buy this VTX it even comes with the small antenna, which we'll be using on this video. And these are the new parts that I have, but I will also install some used parts from my other builds. Of course, all the links for the old parts will be down in the description, so you can find them with no problem. So the first used part is this Cadix rattle camera. It's a little bit more expensive, but it performs in the low light conditions really well. The next part which I'll be using, and these are also used parts from my other build, are these Zinc 1 motors, and they are super bulletproof, they are really durable, and it's no-brainer why they are on this build also. So they have curved bell, one-piece bell, and also the titanium shaft. So these motors are really durable and they withstand crashes really well. So we have the motors, camera, VTX, stack, and also the frame. And the last part that we will be using in this build is of course the receiver. So I am just using this EP1 from Happy Model. This is the Express LRS receiver, which I will install. Of course, the receiver depends on the RC link that you are using. I'm just using the Express LRS because it has really nice range and low latency. So the first step that we will move on will be the assembling the bottom plate of the frame. So we assemble the bottom part of the frame. So we have the arms, we have the screws and everything that we need just to assemble this frame. And also we received this Ready to Sky battery strap, which I not recommend using because this is really weak strap and probably on the first crash you are going to break it. So for this cheap straps, maybe I just tie up my PC wires or something else, but in drone you really need something really durable. So I just put it on the side, and we have all screws, everything that we need we can put right here. And I put it like that, and we have screws. Also I see like a little manual. So it's also my first time assembling this frame. So now I will assemble the bottom part of the frame. So if you don't know how to assemble the frame or something, you have the manual, you can just look into it. It's also my first time assembling this Apex frame, so I just look into the manual. We have the bottom plate and the top plate, and also it's pretty important to know which bottom plate is at the front and which bottom plate is at the back. Later, also we will need it to put the flight controller on the right orientation. Put it like this, so you can see this is the front of our drone, because here we have the camera cage. So the camera cage is right here, and it fits just alright. Yeah, so it's pretty alright. It fits great. And now we have right length of these screws at the front. Because this version that I have is the cheapest version with no 3D prints. Maybe it's one little exception. We received this small plastic 3D print for the antennas, and the rest is just bare carbon fiber. Okay, like this. And now we need to look for the centering block, because we have two arms. So we need to put it like this. Yeah, we need to put it like this, because when we put the third arm, now it will lock itself nicely. Now we need to take the correct screws for our stack. So I picked these screws for the SpeedyB stack. We need the bigger layout, and we will use the smaller layout for the VTX, because VTX is the smaller format, so we'll mount it on the back. We need to screw all the way around to lock these stack screws, so they will be nice in place. So we have these stack screws nice and tight. These screws will be used to hold our flight controller and the AST. Now we can move on, just assemble the rest of the frame. I also noticed with this frame, it's such a cheap frame, and even though you always receive one extra spare screw, so if you lose one, it's not a problem, because you have one extra. So as you can see on this Apex frame, the screws for the stacks are inside of the top plate of the big bottom plate, and now these outer screws are assembling the lower plate and the upper plate together. Just put the lock, the press nuts over here, and it makes a nice sandwich. and the last screw. So we just assembled the bottom part of our frame, also with the camera cage, just to spot the right direction, which one is front. And also one piece that I did not assemble is this standoff, which is right here. So the reason why I've done this is just when we will be soldering the main power wire for the AST, it will be a little bit easier to just maneuver with the soldering iron. So as I said, now we can install the AST, solder the main power wire, and also install the 4 motors. So on this package we have the flight controller and the AST, and these gummies are not the original, so earlier I just changed them for the black color because I think it's just more, I just like black ones a little bit more, it looks a little bit nicer for me. So we can take this 4-in-1 AST, and also in the package you will receive the small capacitor, which is right over here. But I think for the 6S voltage, the rate of 35 volts, it's a lot too low, so we need a little bit bigger capacitor like this one, which is the JCON 50 volts 1000 microfarads. So this is really huge capacitor, and it's going to protect our AST from voltage spikes really well. Also in the package we received this thin 14 AWG wire with the XT60, which we will exchange for something more stiff and durable. And also, so for sure I will exchange this wire for a thicker one, because on this build you will be drawing a lot of amps through this, because this is pretty high power build, so these wires are just not great option, so I just upgrade them for the thicker ones. And also you will receive this small one. Exactly, this is just the connection to connect your flight controller with your AST. So now I'll just upgrade these wires because they are way too thin, so I just solder the thicker wire, which I have right over here. Now I need to take out this casing, so I use a screwdriver. So yeah, we got it out like this. I will just resolder the better wire. And when dealing with soldering XT60s, I really like to put something on this connector, because when you overheat it, these pins can move, because when plastic is getting heated a lot, it gets really soft, and then you can end up with misalignment on these pins. So I really like to put some kind of connector on this place. So for now I will be just using this old XTC, so basically it's just from a old LIPO which was retired, so I just put it like here, and now we can solder this XT60. Also grab these big wires on their places. And also I maybe exchange a bigger tip, because this tip is way too small. So you can see this tip. This is for soldering like the receiver wire, so we change this tip to this tip later. Now for these really big thick wires I use some bigger tips. So I just exchange for a bigger one. So this is the T12C4 tip. It's a lot bigger and more suitable when dealing with bigger stuff. So we should not have any problems just soldering these. We take a little bit of solder. And as you can see, when you have nice big end of the tip, this is really not hard to solder the big pads of the XT60s. So I removed the old wires, which are really thin, and just now we will thin the thick wires. So I'm just doing it like this way from the front of the wire, because tip is really nice and big, so you have really rapid heat transfer. So yeah, we have done one, we have the red one, and now we can thin the black one. So yeah, it's nicely tinned. And now we can solder these wires to the connector. And even if you have labeling right here, which is plus, which is maybe you are not able to see it on the camera. So this is the positive and this is the negative of our connector. Yeah, so we have a nice solder of the XT60. Of course this wire is way too long. I will trim it. I will cut this wire later. So now for extra protection I will add some shrink tube. So even when there is a plastic, when there is a plastic case, I always like to do double safety. So we have the plastic casing and the extra shrink tube. So I just done this like this. So now we add some heat to let them shrink. And now we have some nice connection like this. So you take it out now, this old connector. And the last part that we just add is this plastic cover. So we close it out, close this back on place, and we have nice, and so now we have nice thick 12 AWG main power wire. I will also put the link down below for the thick wire, so it's always handy to have this wire, because if you want more like 5-inch quads, on every 5-inch quad, I think this is the most recommended wire that you can use, and it will deliver a lot of amps when you will need it. So yeah, we are back again with our frame. And now as we take the AST, we can manage our way where to put this main power wire and which length do we need. So here I will be putting the VTX, and on top of the VTX will be the big capacitor. So here we have pretty limited space. So in this build I will run this main power wire from the side, so it will be just like this, and here we have the LIPO which we can connect. So yeah, as we install this AST, this 4-in-1 AST, we can see that we have a lot of room right here, because also you need to be aware that the carbon fiber is conductive, so it can lead to short circuit if you touch some pins to this. So you need to be really aware of this when building quads, just the wires on something, just not to touch the carbon fiber. So even when we'll be mounting the VTX, it will be on the rubber gummies, so physically it will be not touching this carbon fiber. So now I just flip the AST, because I can see that we have a lot of room right here. So we can, on the upper level, we can save the space for the capacitor, and so we can solder the main power wires like right down below this AST, so that way that it will still not be touching this carbon fiber. So I just flip this 4-in-1 AST like this way. So now this is the bottom of the AST. So as we mirror this, I will need to solder it from that way, and the length that I will need, it will be something around like 15 centimeters or even less, like 10 centimeters of a wire, so it should be fine. Yeah, like this, so you can cut this wire. And when we are running this main power line from the side, so if you have positive right here and the negative right here, of course the positive wire needs to be a little bit longer, so we have still the approximately the same length of the two wires, because just the negative is closer to the side, so it's also useful to think about it. So yeah, as we have positive right here, and it will be a little bit longer, I just solder the negative like on this spot. So now we have the proper length of our main power wire, and also it's nice and thick, so it should perform well. And now again we will strip the ends of these wires, just only a little bit, because we don't want our build to be messy, so we just try to solder it as clean as possible. I have one end and also the other end. So, and again, we can prep these wires, so just thin them with the soldering iron. And we need to still remember that this is the bottom part of our AST. So after that operation, we will rotate it back on the right place, because right here even the motor parts are not double-sided. So we know that this is the bottom of the AST. And of course, as you can spot right now, most commonly the back of our drone is also the main power leads. So this is the front of our drone and this is the back of our drone. So even on the AST we have like little arrow right here. So we have same arrow on the flight controller, which we will install later. So now I put it back like this, and now we can solder the main power wire. So the way that I like to do it is just to first add a solder on the wire, and then add the solder on the pad, and then just preheat the pad and add the wire, so they just connect and you have nice strong connection. So now I just add some solder on the pads. So this should be enough. And now on these pads, yeah, this amount should be enough. And now when we have solder on our pads, I just preheat these wires. I just add a little bit more because I don't have whole wire covered with the solder. So yeah, this wire is with the solder, and now we cover the other one. So now it's pretty great. So after that, I start with the closer wire, which is the ground. So now I just solder the ground. I think that like this way is a little bit easier. So add some of the solder on the tip of the soldering iron and just put them like together. And you need to press it down a little bit to make a nice connection. So yeah, we have our wire soldered down. The wire is getting really hot, so also you need to be aware of this, because this is a lot of heat to solder these thick wires. I add a little bit more of the solder to have really strong connection between the main power line and the ST. And now we can do the same with the positive wire. So yeah, we have done soldered pretty nice, as you can see. You can put the iron on the side and you can see. So basically when the solder is shining, it indicates that the soldering joint will be pretty durable and just should hold well. So now we rotate the proper direction as it should be. So we take it like this. As you can see, we soldered this like that. So I soldered it to the bottom of the ST, because on the top we will be soldering the capacitor, and even earlier and even later when we would want to solder these wires on the top, so the capacitor will be on the way of these wires. So that's the reason why I done this way. So I think it will be more easy just to manage this wiring this way. And as we put this AST on the frame, even though when the wires are on the bottom, we still have a lot of clearance right here. So we should not get any shorts right here. Like we have like a half of a centimeter, so it's pretty okay. So yeah, now let's just make sure that I will be able to put this standoff. So maybe I just take this wire like this. The standoff will go right here. Yeah, it should be fine. So yeah, we have our power wire, and now we can mount the motors on each arm. And the one really important information that you should know when you are installing the motors is the proper length of the screws. So to pick the right length of your screw, the best way just to figure out is just physically take the screw that you have, put it on the arm, and you need like 1 or like the 2 millimeters of the protruding through the arm. So when you put the motor hub, it needs to like align just perfectly, because when you take too long screws, you can damage these windings, which will lead to damage on the motor, and you can just burn the motor. So this is the 8mm screw, and it fits really nice with this motor. So I just mount all 4 of these. and you can grab a screw, put it in, and just screw to the motor hub. So this is really important stuff. Put it like here. And just now I screw it only a little bit just to grab this threading. So now it's mounted, but it's just still loose. So you can see how this little bit of the like is really loose. So now you can take a second screw, and when you get the proper alignment, mount the second screw, and now you just can tie it down. So now we have our motors. Now we can solder the motor wires to the 4-in-1 AST. So these are of course the used motors. I already trimmed the wires for them. And even on this build, because we have the squished X frame, this is still, so these lengths of the wires are a little bit longer than I need, but I will not strip them, we just tuck it down in the protection in the arms, so it should be fine. So now again we will fire up our soldering iron, and as with the main power lead, first we will prepare the pads, and then we will just solder wires for them. And maybe you can ask, we have 3 wires, and what will happen when we solder them like the other way? So the answer is that you always need to solder the middle wire to the middle pad, but when you when you solder the side wires like the other ways, the motor will just spin the other direction. So this is not a problem, but later will be more harder to fix on the firmware of the ASC. So I really recommend to just make straight connections. So later it will be a lot easier to configure. So now we have all the motor wires, and now when we still are able to do this, I recommend just to connect this flight control to the AST, ribbon wire, so we just do it like right now. So this is really simple. We just have two sides and we will just connect it to this port. So we have the AST to flight controller connection wire. So with the package with the VTX, you receive of course the VTX. So we have the VTX right here. Also you have laid down every connection that you need to know. The connection wire from our VTX, which we will be probably removing two wires, and later I tell you why. So you have this wire, and the third part, which is really surprisingly at this price point, the VTX antenna. So I give it a little try on this video. We will see just how it performs, because I'm really curious. This is such a cheap antenna. What should go wrong? So maybe you can remember I showed you this package with the stack. So we have these nice small rubber O-rings. We can use them as the insulation on the back of our drone, just to install this VTX and not having it like directly on the carbon fiber, because in this case it should lead to some short circuits. So we just put this VTX on these rubber gummies. And earlier when I was building this frame, you also received these nice M2 screws with these lock nuts, so you can use this to mount the VTX at the back, which we'll do now. And now, as we connect this wire, we will be able which one color of course and which wire is from what port. And when we are using the flight controller OSD, so the camera will be connected to the flight controller, and then the signal from the camera, so the flight controller is adding the OSD, and then it's going to the VTX, so we will be not using the direct camera to the VTX connection. So we will not need the 5-volt wire, because this is for powering directly the camera. This ground is also for the camera, but we will be not using this because we are connecting the camera to the flight controller, not to the VTX. So yeah, so we will be using the 4 wires, which will be the ERC. So this one will be for the transmitting port on our flight controller, which I will show you just later how to solder these wires. This is this DC in, so you use your LIPO voltage on this wire. And also never do this mistake, as I was connecting my VTX for my build for the first time, so I just applied the the 5 volts from the flight controller on this 5 volt pad, and this caused to my VTX just to burn, so it just let the magic smoke and it burned. And you may ask why? Because this 5 volt pad is the power output from this VTX, so this is not the power input, but this is the power output. So this powers your camera, and when you apply the voltage right here, it will burn your VTX. So the proper wire for powering your VTX is just DC in, or in the other VTXs you will see that it's 5 volts, but it's labeled in, so the power goes into this VTX. So this is just the right port. So this one we will be soldering to the T port on the free UART port on our flight controller. This is the power, so the red is positive LIPO voltage, remember, not the 5 volts, because we don't see the 5 volts right here, so it will be the LIPO voltage. And this one is the video, so it will be the VTX port on our flight controller. So now I'll just remove these two wires that we don't need. This is a little bit tricky to get them out. So yeah, we have the first one out, and also we need to get out this green wire. So basically these wires are for the camera, but we will be connecting the camera to our flight controller, not the VTX. Because if we would connect the camera directly to the VTX, we will not receive any on-screen display from our drone, which are like the battery voltage, the flight statistics. Everything is just generated from our flight controller. Yeah, then we have the second wire out. So if you have these wires lying around, don't put them in the trash. You can salvage them and just reuse on the receiver wires or something, because they are pretty elastic and they can serve you a lot of ways in building drones or RC stuff. So now we have all the wires that we need. We can connect to. So we need to remember that this wire is the ERC. This is the power, and this will take the LIPO voltage, not the 5 volts. So this is the battery power input, and this one labeled video will be for the VTX port on our flight controller. So yeah, we mounted the VTX. We have a little bit of clearance also between the frame and the VTX. It should be fine. And also the wires from the VTX. So now maybe we will mount the capacitor, because I could install the capacitor also with the power wires, but this one is really huge, so I just take some special space for this capacitor, like right here, and it should stick well. So the procedure is basically the same as with the power connector, and also be aware, because the capacitors electrolytic ones have the polarization, and you need to pay attention that when you have this strip, so on this more premium capacitor, this is like a golden strip. In more like generic electrolytic capacitors, this strip will be white. So this is the negative side of the capacitor. Also, when it's brand new, the leg is shorter, but of course maybe you will not have the brand new ones. So just to spot the right polarization of your electrolytic capacitor, just look for this strip. So when the side that have the strip is the negative, and of course the other one is the positive. Yeah, it should be fine just like this. The closer the capacitor is to the AST, the better, because you have lower resistance and it's more likely to operate properly. Yes, we have it like this. It should be fine. So now we can solder this down. Maybe when soldering this big boy, also make sure that you can close the frame, because this capacitor is really big and it takes up a lot of space. So it should be really not good if you cannot close the top plate. So we can take the top plate and just check if everything will fit inside, and we can see that the fitment is really nice. We have like 1mm clearance between the VTX, so it's great. So it should work just fine. And also here we have a little bit of space to install the strap for the LiPo. So one strap will be right over here and the second strap will be right over here. So of course we will have two battery straps, which I really recommend to use two straps, not only one, because it's reducing the chance that your LiPo will get ejected during the crash. So now when we have all the components for the AST installed, also with this huge capacitor, we can move on and install the flight controller. So here we go. This nice flight controller. You can even have the micro SD black box here. So this is really a nice deal. As you can see, we need to look for the arrow, and this arrow is showing us which direction we need to orientate this. And now like this, it's the right way. So you have the front right here, the back right here. So the arrow should be pointing the front of the drone. So like this is proper direction. And as we installing this, of course, first thing, now you can connect this AST wire. So when we have these VTX wires lying over, we can take care of them and just connect them to this flight controller, which we will do now. Yeah, right here we have the VTX pad, the T1 pad, which we are looking for, the ground pad, and the battery pad. So you can see also that we have the same pads like multiple times. So we can take just this battery voltage pad or even this battery voltage pad with. So this way will be like more convenient. So I think I just solder it like this order of the pads. So we will use these pads for the VTX. Later when we install the camera right on the front, I will use of course the camera pads, which are the 5 volts ground and the camera. So we have 3 pads over here. And then just to install our receiver, Express LRES receiver, I will use the UART2. So we have the same number of the set of the pads. So UART2, which means the R2, T2. So this is the receiving pad, this is the transmitting pad, and also the power, which is the 455 for V5, and the ground. So this is a nice set of the pads for the receiver. There is a nice set of the pads for the camera, and then we will use this nice set of the pads for our VTX. This is this tip which I was using for the thick wires, and now we will exchange it for the normal small tip, which will make our job pretty easy when dealing with this flight controller. So yeah, I just exchanging for this small nice tip. And just put it on the soldering iron right here. We have it installed. Turn on the soldering iron and we can start soldering. This soldering iron is pretty nice. It's heating up like in the matter of seconds. So you can hear a beep like right here, and now I just can start soldering. So exactly this is the KSG XJAR soldering station. Maybe later I'll do review video, because I will have the soldering station like for 2 years and it's still operating really well. But this is the DC version, not the AC version, because I heard some bad feedback about the AC version. So yeah, now we just take these wires. So these wires are too long for sure. I will just shorten them a little bit. So we just take the pliers, and now we can just cut the set of these wires to the proper length. Also leave some backup in these wires, so in case if you want to move something or remanage the wiring, you will also have some room in doing it. So I always like to leave like 1 or 2 centimeters more of this wire, but also not too much, just to not make your build messy. So I prepared the set of the pads for the VTX. So this is the ground pad, which is right here. So the ground, the VTX, as I told earlier, this is this yellow wire, the VTX wire. The T wire, the transmitting wire, which is right over here. and the battery power wire. So it's right over here. We have the VTX connected. Now we can move on to connect our, so you can see the layout of the pads is like, connection is just like this. We can even move this power wires to this side, so the battery will be right here and the ground will be right here. So basically this is just the same connection. Maybe it will be a little bit cleaner. So you can just choose which pad you want to use. So until it's just the same description. I will manage to install the receiver at the front and then run the antenna from the bottom to the bottom of our arm, and now the antenna will be sticking out. So just to prepare it, we take our Express LRS receiver. I also have one small print right here, so I will know which pad is which one connection, and also this small receiver wire. And most of the time you are powering your receiver and your camera not from the LIPO voltage but from the 5 volts from the FC, so you really need to remember that. So most often, and I think nearly all the cases, the receiver and the camera is powered from your flight controller 5 volt BEC. So we soldered our receiver, and now we need to remember that the TX is the yellow wire and the RX is the white wire. And this is really important to remember, because later we will be doing the cross connection to the flight controller. So in this case we will connect the TX wire from the receiver to the RX pad on the flight controller, and also the RX wire in the receiver to the TX pad on the flight controller. I also use some shrink tube to protect this receiver from the dirt and the damage. It's also nice to put your receiver in the shrink tube or some kind of protection. So everything that I should flash on this receiver is already flashed, and also is bound to my radio. Maybe if you want, I can create the course how to flash and bind your Express LRS receiver. So if you want, you can just write down on the comments. So I just make the just separate video about the flashing Express LRS receivers. But in this video we will just focus on the building this drone. So the white wire is RX wire, which is receiving wire. So we need to connect this receiving wire to the transmitting pad on the flight controller. So as I said earlier, we are making the cross connection. The yellow wire is transmitting wire from the receiver, so we connect it to the receiving pad, and now we connect the receiving pad on the receiver to the transmitting pad on the flight controller. So the connection will look just like this. You can see that these wires. So it should work just fine. Now we can make our way just to hide this receiver inside the frame and also install the camera. I just add some double-sided 3M tape on the receiver and we can just put it on the bottom of this plate. So yeah, we have a nice sticky gummy right over here. So now we can stick this receiver inside the frame. Of course, hide the wire and just put it like right over here. So I have the little tight space right over here for the antenna. And then I just put this antenna at the bottom of the arm, because we'll be not doing the extreme long range, of course, with this build, because this is the Freestyle bando basher, so it will fly pretty close to us, but it needs just to be really durable. And now we can install the camera. So when you are installing the camera, just make sure also your camera is heading the right orientation. So the bottom of your screen will be of course the bottom of the drone. Also the top of your screen will be the top plate of your drone. So I always look for the descriptions. So the descriptions are just like this way. I know that this is the top. Also you have here the labels like over here. So this is the top of the camera, and this is not the top of the camera. So basically this is the top of the camera. So we will install it like this. So now we can solder the camera wires, and also, as I showed you earlier, we have these nice camera pads, which is the cam, ground, and also the 5 volts. We have the camera, ground, and 5 volts connected to our camera. Now we can install the VTX antenna, and maybe we will do the first test run. We're just installing the MMCX antenna like this. It will pop into its place, you can hear the click. And now I would really like to zip tie this down, because we can damage this antenna pretty easily in case of a crash. So maybe I just zip tie it. And now we have the VTX antenna installed. But if you want a better range and a lot more durable solution, because I can see right here we have a lot of tension. I would really recommend in the future just to get the proper mount, 3D printed mount from the TPU with the SMA pigtail, so you can just screw the normal antenna, you will get the better range and it will be a lot more durable than this. But in the case on this video I will show you that it's still possible on this integrated antenna, and we will just see the results, how the range will be on this small guy. Now we can tie down the main power connector, because in case of a crash when your LiPo gets ejected, probably your main power wire also can be pulled really hard, so it's also great just to secure it. So you can grab via the standoff that we mounted like a while ago, so it should make pretty stiff connection. So when you add some tension, now the standoff will take this tension also with the zip tie, not the ports on your AST. So probably you're reducing the risk that your AST will be damaged. And now we can take care of these motor wires because they look really messy. So which I like to do, I have pretty nice convenient way from Mr. Steel, because he does the same. When we have some broken props, I just not put them onto the trash bin, but just salvage them. You have these nice polycarbonate blades which you can put on top of these motor wires, and these blades will really nice protect the wires from getting sliced by a moving propeller. So I will do it right now, and also to make it easier I apply some double-sided tape on this side and also on the arm, so the wire from the motor sticks really nice and will not move. So I have this tape from AliExpress. This is the different type of a tape that I use on the receiver, because on the receiver is like a lot thicker and more just rubbery tape. This is really thin tape, so you can see it's really thin. So this is just perfect for these protections, because you are not increasing the thickness on this, and you just get the right adhesion that we need. So now we just put the tape on the arms. So we have the 4 propellers, like the broken blades of the propellers. And I put again the one piece of a tape on these propellers. So now we have this, and now we can wrap it up with the nylon tape. This nylon tape is also not really expensive and it's really durable, a lot better than the insulation tape, I noticed. So now we can wrap it around and just repeat this procedure for all the remaining 3 arms. So yeah, I wrapped all the 4 arms with this nylon tape. So right here we have the protection, nylon tape, and the arm. So in this way the wire is really well protected, and also this protection is pretty durable, because really often with the BNFs you receive like small plastic right here. But I noticed that when you crash like 2 or 3 times, it just breaks. But this is really durable, so you can crash really multiple times, and it holds up really, and it lasts for a really long time. So as I told you earlier, on this particular arm, so we have the protection, and also I grabbed this express LRS antenna, so we have it on the front left arm. So here is so maybe I can show you the screwdriver. Here is the express LRS receiver, and the wire goes right here, and on the bottom of the arm, sticking out like here. Also, there is no way that propeller is going to slice this antenna, because it's pretty short, so it's pretty safe out here. And now maybe the last 2 steps will be just finish off the stack building. So we put the nuts right here. So I use the nuts that they are provided with the apex frame, but later maybe I really recommend to use some of the self-locking nuts, like we have like right down here. Maybe you can swap these screws out, but I not recommend, because it will be really great to have self-locking nuts right here and also right here, so the stack will not lose over time when we fly, and on this drone will receive a lot of vibrations. So yeah, we installed all the components that we need on this build, and the last step will be the final powering the drone and checking if every component is working properly. And before that, I also encourage you just to check the clearance between the boards, that you need some space between these, and also some insulation space between the VTX. So if you connected everything correctly, we can take, so if you have some kind of smoke stopper, you just take the LIPO, plug the smoke stopper, and then you plug the drone connector. But I have just a special DC power charger, so I will just use my charger, connect the power, and I will take the female to female XT60 from my parallel charging board, which I will make video later, because it's pretty nice board that I created for my needs. So you just take this power wire. Now this balance wire is not important, so you just take this main XT60 wire, so I can connect it to my charger, like right here. So we connected the drone, and now we just put it on the DC power mode, only low current, like 1.5 amps. So it acts like a digital smoke stopper. So now we can hit the on, and our freshly built drone will power up. So we can put it on, and as you can see, everything works. We heard the 3 beeps, so that means that the 4-in-1 ASC is talking to the flight controller. We can see all the LEDs on this. Also, you can see that the receiver is blinking, so it's on the binding mode, and also the VTX is blinking. Now it's the red diode, so everything is working. So we finished this build. Now we can just turn it off. Yeah, I just turn it off. Can disconnect the main power lead. So this is, every connection is correct. So now I can turn off my power supply. So we'll just take the 8 short screws and just close it. So we can drop it on the scale. So the alone finished drone weighs 340 grams, as you can see. Yeah, 340 grams. And with the Velcro strap, it will be the 303, so the Velcro strap weighs 3 grams. But also I think we need to remove these holes, because these are just the frame cutouts. So without these cutouts, it will be like, yeah, 2.5 grams. So just to compare, we have this rubbery one, and I think it will be a lot heavier. So again, like, we drop it on the scale, and you can see, yeah, it's like 350 grams. So I really recommend just to use this lighter one. Hello, it's me from the future. So the quick information about this LIPO pad, I needed to use the thick rubber one, because when I tried to mount this nice Velcro pad, actually the screws are just too high, and when I put the LIPO with the Velcro, they can pinch the LIPO. So this is pretty dangerous. So until you get some nice low profile screws, maybe this rubber one is a better option, because it's just safer for your batteries. So we mount it just like this, and it will be for your LIPO. So yeah, I think this video is pretty finished. Maybe later I really recommend to improve this piece on the VTX antenna. On this video I'm just curious how it will work out, because I never used this style of the antenna. But later, of course, I will do some nice 3D print and use the MMCX to SMA pigtail, and then just screw normal big SMA antenna. Also, we will need to configure this build on the beta flight, which I'll be doing this separate video. This will be the pretty universal video, so that's the reason why I'm doing it on this separate video, how to configure this drone and also the other drones in beta flight. So the procedure is pretty similar. So yeah, see you in the field and testing this drone out. So now we'll be doing the first test run, and we will be flying this drone in line of sight, just to check outside of this drone if every component is working properly. So I really encourage you just find some free open space. So we will be moving at these fields. This is really nice big open space, and testing making the first launch. So that way we will make sure that everything is working, and next we can jump into our goggles. So yeah, we are here now on some nice open space. We don't have anyone around this place, so it's pretty safe, because this is really important, just not to hurt anyone, because these things, they are really heavy, really fast, and for sure they can harm someone and you can have really big problems. So now I strapped the fuse strap, which is grabbing the connector and the LIPO. So this is really nice way. Also your power wire will not get into the props. So first, turn on your radio. It's really important, always first turn on your radio and then the drone. So yeah, we turned on the radio. So at the start I turned the angle mode because I will be flying this in loss, so I'm not the super king, the acro flying in the loss. And now we connect the XT60. Alright, tight down the last battery strap. So you can see the main power lead is nicely secured by our second battery strap, so there is no way that the main power lead will get onto your propellers during a crash. And also I really encourage you just to have two battery straps. It's a lot better for the LIPO, and also during the crash you have really small chance that the LIPO will get ejected. So our drone is ready to go. We can just put it on the grass, and just the first thing, of course, we can arm the drone and really slowly raise the throttle. Don't like go 100% already. So now we need to be really gentle with our drone, because this is default beta flight settings and I don't know what to expect. So now I'm in the angle mode also, so you can arm the drone and really slowly raise the throttle. So in that way you check if your props are spinning the right directions. So even when they are not great, so drone will just flip out, and then you just need to check your motor's right directions, and also if you have your props the right way. So I slowly raise the throttle. Yeah, so drone is extended. You can fly it, pretty nice. So and now I am on the angle mode. Maybe now I switch to the acro mode to check the modes. Whoa! I added a little bit of throttle. Damn, this stuff is really punchy. I literally like only gently tapped the throttle and it already took off really fast. So yeah, I changed it to acro mode. So definitely this is the acro mode. So yeah, we are on the acro mode. So the modes are working. You can see that when I let the stick, the drone still is going that direction. So this is the indicator that you are in acro mode. Of course, acro mode is pretty hard, so I don't recommend it to the beginners. So yeah, now I switch to the angle mode. Maybe we can fly it a little bit further. So yeah, now it's pretty right. Modes are working. I also can feel that I have my rates, not like any other stuff. Maybe we can get this drone a little punch. So yeah, it's pretty alright. Yeah, and after successful loss flying, so I was not wearing my FPV goggles during this flight, so I can spot if everything is working alright, nothing is getting inside of the spinning propellers. So this test is passed, so now we can move into FPV. So yeah, we are right here in first person view. So you can see at the bottom of my screen, so on the left corner we can see the battery voltage, and on the right corner we can see the VTX channel and also the power. So I set power only to 100 milliwatts, so we'll see how it will perform, because it's really cheap VTX. So maybe I will be really surprised if we get the decent range. Also the antenna is not the best, so we just fly it and just check how it behaves.
Not so fast.
So yeah, we can start. Yeah, it's flying pretty alright. I can feel a little bit of bounce when I'm adding this throttle. But like in general, it's really not bad. It's really not bad flying drone. So maybe we can fly a little bit further to these trees. Yeah, it's flying pretty great, dude. Like, I have this is all default beta flight settings, so I knew for sure it can behave a little bit weird, but for default beta flight settings, it's really great, dude. It's flying actually really great. Maybe we can do a little bit of power loop right here. Yeah. Dude, it rips so nice. I can do this whole day.
From this grill that I got grills, jewelry, drugs, phones, bitches, yeah, whatever you fucking want, all it. That X pills, all this shit.
If you getting wholesaling dope on the fucking track, if you got some chronic right now, smoke, keep a sack, don't break a bitch, make her make your money, make it G. If you got weed, well, smoke a sack for me. If you getting wholesaling dope on the fucking track, if you got some chronic right now, smoke, keep a sack. Break a bitch, make her make your money, make it G. If you got weed, well, smoke a sack for me.
So there it is. We flew our drone, and even when it had the default beta flight setting, I was really surprised how well this thing flew. So for sure this will be my main freestyle drone because I was really surprised. It was my first time on this Apex frame, and this is literally amazing drone. So even after the flight I checked the motor's temperature and they were really cold, so we have a lot of room to pit tune the squad and make it fly even better. Already it flies really great. So also before the test video I added the second zip tie because I thought that this wire was too long, so during the crash it could get into this propeller. So I just added the second zip tie right here. And during my 6-pack session on this spot I haven't crashed at any flight, so only one time I tumbled this drone a little bit, but it was nearly like another crash because I was having such a nice time with this build that I forgot just to look at my battery voltage, and it was so low that I needed to land now. So I just disarmed from low height and the drone just fell on the grass, but it was really soft, so everything on it is on excellent condition. Maybe from landing I got a little bit of scratches on these screws, but this is literally like nothing. This is normal. This is normal just from using this drone, and I'm really impressed how well it flew. Also is really not expensive build, so it's one from the cheapest drones that you can build for yourself, and I'm really excited. So this really long adventure is about to end. So it was really exciting just to build your own drone, configure it, and of course finally flying it, having such a nice time with it. It was flying really great. I was not expecting that this drone will fly so good on stock settings, so you could hear some weird oscillation from the motors, but it was not a really huge problem. I could still fly this drone and rip it. So it was really nice. So also, if you can like and subscribe my channel, it will give me huge motivation to do more of these videos for you guys. So also you can learn something new each video. So bye bye and stay creative.